Here is a nigun that, in the collection of the nigunim from before the Holocaust, I don't think I've added it on. You know, all of us are sort of stuck on the Mo Sur that comes from Germany, which used to be a song in the Lutheran Church, sort of a Christmas song, where people would sing, no, go ahead. Aha, no wonder, okay. When people would sing, Kommt die frohe Weihnachtszeit, and so the Jewish kids going to school decided to sing more to those things, and so it became imported this way. And you can hear the organ, ta ta ti ta to ta ti ta 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 ti 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 to ba bu bum ta ta ta. This one, my dad was singing. He got it from the Rosvadover Rebbe, and goes like this. I'm always so Yeshua si lechano ve'leshabeach tikoin beis tefilosi v'sham toidon ezabeach le'yes tochin matbeach mitzora Hamna beyach ozegmoya b'shir mizmoya Chanukas hamizbeyach. It's a nice nignal. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 diridim, ada dai dam, ada dai dam, ay da 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 dam. Ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ay da da dam da da dam ay da dam ay da 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 dam. It's a soaker. That's a nigun. You say mevaiksachinim. You know, it's the nigun isn't. Suppose it's not for marching, and there is that part that says Ein lana rishus leishtamish beim elo liroisam bilvad. So I once was with the Baba Rebbe when he lit the menorah, and for that half, 3/4 of an hour, he didn't say a word. Kept on looking at the candles, you know. Just to get into seeing them. And that was a very wonderful learning from that. And so I got from there that this nigun that my dad was singing was how the Rosvadover would hum that nigun at the time when he was watching. That minhag of Elo liroisam bilvat was a very strong thing. Thank you. Whoever needs more. I was looking at stuff from this Sedrit, and here's a nice sefer, and that's volume 1 of that, the Shon Hasidim. What you see in the Penine Chassidus is sort of those shortened, making from Avot Avel. Do you know what I mean? It is like encapsulating it in a very small space, but it always needs to be expanded. The places from which they took some of those things are here in full language. And I was paying attention to the Vayisroitzusu Habonim B'Kirbo, because Rabbi Elimelech puts it this way. He has this wonderful way, everything is what's happening to a person who wants to daven. So Vayigash Elov, Yehuda, as a Yid will sich stellen davenen. You know? Vayigash Elov, ein Hagosh Elov Lashon Tefillah. A Jew wants to daven. So what does he say? Bi Adoni, oi, it all is going on inside of me. What's going on? Yedavenu avdecha dovel be'ozne Adoni. Ticha moicho. Sometimes when I start davening to speak into your ears, O God, I'm just like you. Feel so divine. And sometimes kefara. Sometimes I feel like Farah, stubborn, and so on and so forth. So he begins with that when you, a Yid stellt sich davenen, that's how a Jew begins to daven, and this is what happens to him. Vayisroitze zu abonim b'kirba, he says, what's going on? So we know that Midrash tells us that Beis Medrash of Shem Ve'eva, Yaakov wanted to come out, and when it came by, and Avodah Zarah, Esau wanted to come out, and so that's where they were fighting. One kasha somebody asked, this is a very nice one, why does Yaakov have to get out? He's got a malach teaching him. What does he have to go to? He says, to go with Esau in one cheder he didn't want. So you hear that, okay? There's a lot of stuff in there. So he says, when you want to daven and you start feeling the tearing inside of you, then you say, Rebbeinu Shlom, if this is so, Im Kain, you know, Lama Ze Anochi, and in Yiddish, the Melamed used to say, if oib das Zar von Trogen is takia so groß, you know, if the pain of pregnancy is so great, the troubles of pregnancy are so great, what am I doing? So he says like this: when I start to daven and I see the battle that's beginning to rage inside of me, then I say, Lama ze onoichi. What's going to happen? Why is there anoichi Hashem Elokecha? What's the anoichi going to do if today I'm going to be with Yaakov and feel close to the Rebbeinu Shlom, and the next time I'm going to feel I'm like Esau. If that's one child, then what's the use? Because I'm always going to be in this conflict. I'll never know what I can do about it. There won't be any end. Vatelach lidrishas Hashem. So a Yid Gate, he goes to the Rebbe and he starts asking the Rebbe, what am I going to do about it? So he says, Shnei goyim bevitnech. It's not one being inside of you, it's two beings inside of you. And you'll be able to do something about that. So that's one of those interpretations. There are a number of others here in Vayitrotzesu Abanim Bekirbo, and I want to get into them because they're the Parparov LaChochma, but we have a few other things to do, and I think I want to do them first. I want to read you again the way of when the people who have trouble with Korbanot and Musaf. This is the way in which I wrote the Rosh Chodesh. The Rosh Chodesh Musaf. Hang in there for a moment. No, it is here someplace. No, if it doesn't want to be found, then... Yeah, don't forget, we also have that Alanisim for Chanukah that was rewritten. I'll give you copies of that if you want. Here. Rashei Chadashim le'amcha natata L'shinui vesed liyamim v'damim. You get the idea, liyamim v'damim here, because of the monthly cycle. Zman hitchadshut l'chol toldotam. בהיותם מתקרבים אליך בתפילה ותשובה ואהבה עזה לכפר באדם, זיכרון לכולם יהיה, ותשועת נפשם ביד שונא. מזבח חדש בציון תכין, ועליות ראש חודש נעלה אליו, ושירי ידידות נשירו ברצון, ובעבודת בית המקדש נשמח כולנו, ושירי דוד עבדיך נשמעים בירך, האמורים בלשונות רבים בבית תפילה לכל העמים, אהבת עולם לכולנו, תביא לכולנו, וברית הורים לבנינו ובנותינו תזכור, ויביאנו לציון עירך ברינה, ולירושלים בית מקדשך בשמחת עולם, ושם נעשה ונתקרב אליך באהבה כמצוות רצונך, ועל ידי עבדיך הנביאים כתוב לאמור, והיה מדי חודש בחודשו, מדי שבת בשבתו, יבוא כל בשר להשתחוות לפני, אמר השם. And then Elokeinu v'Elokeinu chadish aleinu. I just wanted you to see that there is an option for this musaf if you want. The name for this chodesh begins with Vav, Yud, Hey, Hey. So it is Ben, Abba, Aim, and Bat. That's the order of it. Okay? So how would you put this in other language? You would say it is young yang, and it's old yang, and it's old yin and young yin. And that's the way it comes out, okay? That's for this chodesh.
Ben Abba,
Huh?
Ima Bat. Hey, hey.
Yeah, and mother first. And today is the yahrzeit of Herschel Rimenova. I want to tell you a couple of mices about him and a shtickle Torah, okay? He was very young a Yosim, and nobody cared very much for him, and they didn't think that he was going to be a great lamdan, so they gave him to a tailor, that he should learn how to be a tailor. So he had something about him that was very special, his sense of avdut, you know. You have to serve. If you are serving your teacher who is a tailor, then you have to serve him too. And he always learned a lot from serving. Later on, it happened that he had heard that Reb Mendel Rimenova, who was a disciple of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, was the great Rebbe to whom people have to go and learn. So he wasn't considered to be a lamdan, somebody who didn't know very much, and so on and so forth. And he was a humble person. So he took to sweeping the Bes Medrash and to take care of all these things, and whatever they would give him to eat, he would have. And his service to the Rebbeinu Shalom was very much in secret. There was an older chassid whose job it was to be the Rebbe's personal shamus. And he made his bed for him each time, because what does mean a bed? It means fresh straw, you know, because that's how you would sleep on, and to set it up for him and to tuck it in just right and so on. So this older man, one day, Herschel was begging him, let me make the bed for the Rebbe, let me make the bed for the Rebbe. One day, his arthritis for the old man was so strong he couldn't move. So he says, okay, Herschel, you do it. Next morning, Reb Mendel Rimenova says, who made the bed for me last night? So the shamus couldn't help it. He says, Rebbe, I had asked Herschel to do it. Tell him from now on he's to make my bed. The kavanis that he had when he made up the bed for him was such a wonderful thing that the Rebbe wanted to have him to be the regular bed maker, okay? So he was known as Herschel Mishoris. Once it happened that every month, and I'll read you the story here, let me read it to you. Kein haya Rabbeinu Menachem Mendel Rimenov noheg לשלוח משגיחים בכל ערב ראש חודש אל כל החנויות להשגיח על המידות והמשקלות שיהיו כדת תורה. Because they didn't have in those days a Bureau of Standards. And who was the Bureau of Standards? The Shliach Besdin who would go around, so Reb Hershel went. הייתה עובדה כי פעם אחת שלח את משרתו הרב הקודש רב צבי הירש הכהן עם עוד אחד להשגיח על המידות ועל המשקלות, ומצאו בחנותו של עשיר אחד סור ומדרבנן מידה פסולה ויחכו על זה. So he had one measuring cup that was not right in the house of someone who apparently could learn Torah a lot and was rich. Already you have a clash, right? So, Bayan Lahem, Cain modedim bo. When he was giving him something, you shouldn't have that, hold it in the house. He said, we don't measure with it. ויאמר לרב צבי הירש, הלא הדין מפורש, אפילו אסור לעביד, אין משין אותו בביתו. Even if somebody has given it to you as a pawn, you're not to keep it in the house. ולקחה תחת כפות רגליו וירמסה. And he crushed it there on the floor. העשיר ענה בעזות, הגם שאול בנביאים, הגם צבי הירש יודע לפסוק דין תורה. וילכו להם. Insulting Reb Hirsch, and they went. When they came back to Reb Menachem Mendel, he asked Reb Tzvi Hirsch, knew what happened? Did you find them? He said, everything is in order. He didn't want to tell anything bad about the rich person who had shamed him in order that he shouldn't get punished. And then when Reb Mendel asked the other guy, how did you find the measuring things? He told him what had happened. Immediately, Reb Mendel had told the Shamas to go and call the people together to shul. We didn't have any bells, so how did we do that? So the Shamas went with a wooden clapper and clapped on the, and that was for bringing, was called a shul clapper, and to bring people to shul and so on. So the Rebbe wants to give a drosha. So they all came. And he told them, but when you go to the house of that person who refused to have that thing out of his house, don't knock on his trisim, on his thing. So they all came to the shul, and he gave him a drosha about true measurement. And that person, when he realized that this was all on account of him, so he came to the shul, took off his shoes, and accepted the shame, public shaming for what he had done. And he asked forgiveness. And he said, I will forgive you if you will give 50 ruble a knas. And then he said, Reb Mendele said this, and then, you were saying that my Reb Hershel doesn't know how to learn. Who knows if the Rosh Yeshiva in your place in Gan Eden will be able to learn as well as Reb Hershel. Wow, okay. What was Reb Hershel doing the whole time he was going? You call it shepchin, he was doing it under his breath. What was he doing? He was praying that that person shouldn't be harmed for that. So he came to the Rishona, when the two of them, they had a shidduch, their children got married. The Rishona had a way of saying, in our family, and he would say, I come from Reb Zalman Schachter, and Reb Zalman Schachter is the son of the Malach, and the Malach is the son of the Maggid of Mezrich, and he goes on up to David HaMelech and so on and so forth, and turns to Reb Hershel and says, what's your yichus? He says, I was an apprentice to a tailor, and I learned something from him. Whatever is new, you work with, you don't spoil. And whatever is old, you fix it. So the Rishon says, enough. So it's a wonderful thing to have Reb Herschel here. So let's go and look at that sheet that I
So would you
handed
call him
out.
Tzvi Herschel of Rimanov or?
Rimanov,
Okay.
yeah. We say Rimanov, I think it's Romanov,
Oh.
you know, the town. Lvov in Polish and Lviv in Ukrainian, so the Ukrainians have a way of doing that. All right. You'll see after a while why I wanted this mimer, because it takes, while everybody else stays very much with the story of Yaakov and Esav on the ground floor, here we get something a little different, and I'd like you to see where that takes us, because in this sefer that I have here, the Lashon Hasidim, some remarkable things keep on being asked. How come that Yitzchak could be fooled? And how come that Yitzchak could be so fooled that he should like Esau? And all kinds of things are being offered for that. And that's interesting spin. But let's see where he goes with that. He says, Reach b'ni kereach sadeh asher bercho Hashem. What is this smell of the field which God has blessed that was so important that this is what gets him to give the bracha, okay? Lahavin. The Yitzchak Hevin, Shehu Esav, Vecha Yachashuv Be'enav Kol Kach. According to that, when he said Reach b'ni kereach hasod asher bercho Hashem, so he figured that was Esav. So what was this heavy thing that he felt about Esav that was so great? Gam be'emes in a move and ech haya Esav be'eni Yitzchak. It's very hard to understand how Esav looked to Yitzchak. Kipama markoso kitzayet befiv. So you hear that he was able to be a hunter with his mouth, meaning you don't have to give meiser from salt, you don't have to give meiser from straw. But he was asking these things. In Galicia, when somebody wanted to be super frum, then you would say, fragt Esav Shailes. You know? He's asking those questions that he was asking, not satisfied with giving regular maser. Upama Marakos, Vakol Kol Yaakov, Hainu Lefi Shama Kihikre Hashem Rakecho Li. And V'yoda She'ein Shem Shemaim Shogel Befiv. You don't expect that he should say Baruch Hashem, Yitz Hashem, you know, you don't hear that from an Esav. I remember when Papa of Hashem would show me how they would lay in, how the Melamed would teach. So there was, in Yiddish you always add some things that was sort of bringing in Rashi and Midrash and so on and so forth. So, Vayochel, Vayesht, Vayokam, Vayelech. Vayochel hat gegessen und abroche, Vayesht hat getrinken und abroche, Vayokam ist aufgestanden und Birchas Hamosen, Vayelech ist gegangen im Weg und Philos Haderech, you know, so, because you have that, these consecutive, you know, Vayochel, Vayesht, Vayokam, Vayelech, uninterrupted there, so they put in all these things that there was, you know, there is sometimes, we do this in Davening also, especially Sfardim. Leman lo nevosh, bolam hazeh, velo nekaleh, bolam baba. You know, always, just, if I have to give you the drash along with that, okay? So, he knew that this wasn't a Baruch Hashem person who was saying this. Acha inyan kine Esav suspita the dara. So it was like Vuvah the Yitzchak. All of a sudden he takes the elevator and goes very high up.
Huh.
That Yaakov and Esav are also a cosmic drama that's going on. And that which has to happen with Yitzchak. Because it is known that Esav represented the dross of the gold. Why gold? Usually you speak of the dross of the silver. So why is it gold? Because Avraham is chesed and chesed is silver, nichsov nichsavti. That makes Gvura gold. And so that makes Yitzchak representing gold. And there is also, when you smelt gold, there is some that isn't gold that gets in the furnace cleaned out at this, in the what is it called? In the crucible. And so the Zohar says that Esav represented that part that's in the gold, but is not gold itself that has to come out. The Yitzchak Sheprinas Malas Azov ala Kesef, because Yitzchak is that extra attribute of gold over silver. Mipsolet Shelo, and from psolet is an interesting word. From what technology does psolet come? It means throwaway stuff, right?
The chaff.
Garbage, huh?
Isn't it grain, the chaff of the grain? The puzzle of the grain. It's not.
No, it comes from psol lecha avanim.
Oh.
That if you're, you know, you see in front of CompUSA is that wonderful sculpture about the guy who's carving himself out of the rock. Do you remember that? So when you say, what is Michelangelo, what does he see? He was able to look at a rock and remove in his mind the psolet from it, okay? So psolet is the offall that comes from the stone, okay?
It was like several years ago when we were going to the Kala, we stopped at the wood carving museum,
Yeah?
all right? And they have docents there, and people from all over the United States come and learn for the whole summer. And as you watch them, they start out with a perfect block. They have some image they want to carve.
Mm-hmm.
But you wonder about all the stuff that's taken off with the carving knife.
Right.
All right? Because, I mean, for them, it's
The whittled is,
the whittled.
right, is the psolet.
Right. So,
Okay.
So when we say puzzle, when something
Pardon?
is puzzle, it's the same. When we say something is puzzle.
Pasul is, that means that which is cut off already, which doesn't become to the ikar.
Right. So a Torah is puzzle.
A Torah is puzzle.
No
There's
longer
something
usable
missing.
or
There's
something,
something
okay.
missing from it.
Okay.
somebody took
There's something carved away.
In a letter.
Some
It's
letters
the
are
negative, the zero.
Yeah. Okay, so Esav represents the psolet of Yitzchak. V'reisha de Esav bat fui de Yitzchak. And the head of Esav is caught at the toes of Yitzchak.
Oh, that might be Jack.
Would you answer? If it's not Jack, then I don't want to deal with it. Olahavin inyan reisha. What does it mean that Esav is hanging on to the head of Yitzchak? Hine yesh yud aleph samamone aktores hatzri vatziporen. When you talk about what goes into the incense, they're talking about 11 things that go into there. The samamone aktores. There's a joke that somebody once said. They didn't want to count him for a minyan. I forgot who it was, because the person wasn't the way he should be. So he said, "Why don't you count me for the minyan?" He says something because your maisim stink. You know how you behave. So he says, "But Chelbana is also one of the."
He's leaving a message on the machine. This is somebody else, so I asked him to call back. and leave a
Okay,
message.
good. And then I will simply cut off the sound here, if I can. There is a way, but I don't know how. All right.
Reb Zalman,
Yeah.
could you tell us who the text is from?
Pardon?
What is this text from?
Oh, this is Reb Shneir Zalman's teachings on Bereshit and Shemot,
Okay.
and he picks it up in Likutei Torah for Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Devarim, and Shir Hashirim, and some other things. And this is the stuff that Rabbi Menachem Mendel, his grandson, edited for the print, because the saying was, Rabbi Zalman once was asked, are you satisfied with the people who write down your stuff? He said, my brother writes it down as I said it. My son, the Mittler Rebbe, writes it down as I mean it, and he expanded it very big. Then he says, but Rabbi Menachem Mendel writes it down the way I say it and the way I mean it. So you have, this was his way of saying this.
That's
Okay.
great.
So let's continue. He has now talked about how could you make a mistake about Esav, because there's an element of Esav that is so high that it holds on to Yitzchak, and it was at one point connected with that, and now that's where he is. Okay. V'hem keneged Yud Kitrin de Mesavuta, you have the same way as you have 10 spheres, you have 10 crowns of defilement. Shuachiyut shebekdusha mechaya et hazeh le'umat zeh. Because in everything there has to be some vitality from kedusha, and that infuses it, and yet they are arrayed in this balance against each other. כמו שיש בקדושה י' ספירס, כך יש ממש בקליפה האורז מי' ספירס לקדושה. אך בקדושה 10 ולא 9 ולא 11. In Sefer Yetzirah, he says there are 10 spheros belima. There are 10 spherot. Belima is a wonderful thing, because what is what? A whatness. And a whatness is a quality.
Oh,
Qua is what, you know?
Wow.
Mahut, right?
that's great.
Belima. These are all those words that come up from medieval times when they were translating Aristotle and into Arabic and into Hebrew, and so when they needed words that didn't exist before, they made them up. Atzmut, absolute, Mahut, Echud, Haudus, Kamut, quantity,
How?
you know? That's, you get quanto, comma, quantity. So you see all these words, okay? So and he says those 10 spheres, as he describes them in Sefer Yetzirah, you cannot lay onto them any particular quality, or how would Aristotle say it? Any accidents. Are we clear?
We don't answer this one.
It's all right.
We don't answer this one. Huh? No.
You can disconnect it too there for me. It's all right.
Disconnected?
I'll take next time.
Yeah.
Take the phone off the hook and leave it off the hook.
Put it in water.
All right. So he says that there are. Therefore, in Kedusha, there's only 10, but in Klippah you have to have 11. So you have to explain that. V'ha'inyan. So how do you explain that? כי על ידי החיות שנמשך בקדושה הנה כסיב וצבא שמיים לך משתחווים שהם בטבע מחמא שמשיגים החיות הנמשך עליהם מקדושה. So is more מה שאין כן הקליפס. Now we're going to stop here. Imagine you are now connected to your deep sense of holiness. And in that deep sense of holiness you become aware that you're being created right now. In fact, that your existence, I'll say that my existence isn't anything that I have made myself or that I've created or that I have control over, and I become filled with a delight of appreciation and thanksgiving that it was given to me in this fantastic, vast universe, the privilege to be a conscious human being, you know? Get the idea? And from that sense, you don't feel that you have an ego. You're transparent to that. You know, I've been thinking about everything that comes on, what's ego, what's ego, what's ego. And I get the sense, Ramdas once put it so good, he says, before anybody comes into the room, there comes already, this is who I am, that's what I do, that's how I present myself, you know. The presentation of self that we put out to get our social cachet, is that's more the ego than anything else. Because if there's nobody else around, you don't get into that presentation of self. Remember once we did this exercise? Oh, we'll do it again, okay? You go to the place where the tefillin are, from the top, and where the kesher is. And you go from there to there, and you make, see a line, as it were, inside your skull, okay? And then you go to the two temples, and take another line in the skull, and they cross at a particular place. And now move back from the front of your face to that place in the center where the two lines cross, and look at your face. Now you see how you could say you are not your face. Okay?
From inside.
Give a call later on.
Shabbos.
Now, let's go back to that place, okay? You look at your face from that place inside. And then you ask yourself the next question. And even that point in the center, which is my knowing place, is this the origin? And you get a sense that even behind that, there's a place. And I want to, at this point, frame something here. There is a thing that I want to start learning at some depth, which has Rabbi Zalman's teaching on the Sfirot, and the teaching of his Chaver, the Malach, Rabbi Avrom, the Malach. Remember the story that's told that the Maggid of Mezrich asked him that they should be Chaverim, and Rabbi Zalman should teach him Nigle, and the Malach should teach him Nistar. And for an hour each they did it, and Rabbi Zalman would always move the clock back when the Malach was teaching him, because he so was happy with that. He felt that that was a kosher geneva, you know, to get that.
Check or just let it go?
Huh?
Should I check or just let it go? The phone.
It's another.
Let it go. Let it go. They'll put in. If the door is close to the office, that would help. And this other phone, that's the white phone over there.
Thank you.
Okay. So the two of them would learn together in this way. So the Maggid's son, the Malach, writes a book called Chesed LaAvraham, in which he talks about the Sfirot. And he doesn't like to call the Sfirot with lights, vessels, you know, because people make these things too concrete. So he calls them masculine seichel. Okay? The seichel, so is already chesed, the seichel of chesed, the seichel of gur. Do you see that? In Bria, that's very much how you would be thinking about it. You know, what's chesed? Chesed is this attitude, this frame for seeing reality in. You know, that's the seichel of chesed and the seichel of gvura. But behind the seichel, there's a maskil. That's the one that causes the seichel, okay? That thing of the maskil I want to get to. In other words, it's even behind that central place in there. That's the maskil. Often when people are talking about meditation, and for instance, right now I was saying, imagine this place, da-da-da-da-da-da, it's very active. It's a very active thing. In other words, you're constructing in your imagination as something. But when it gets to the maskil, you can't construct anymore. You have to wait what the maskil is going to produce. You have to be the screen for the maskil to present the seichel, okay? So that kind of thing I see as a backstroke swimming, you know? Like if you swim this way, it's very, very directed and so on. Backstroke swimming is meditation. That's a backstroke swimming is Shabbos. During the week, you do a crawl, and on Shabbos you do the backstroke. Okay, which is a way of saying that's. So if you look at this, here's the goof in the face, and then in the center is the neshama. And over there's the neshama yesera. You get that in the back. You get the feel. So going into the maskil. So he's saying that we have these 10 facing each other, and that if you look the way in which all reality operates, the 10 show themselves whether it's in Kedusha or in Klippah. In either case, the 10 are there.
But he's saying there's 11 in Klippah.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the 11th. but at least he says the 10 are makbilot, you know, they're la'om yamatz. When I was at Temple University, I had a course there in the, I think I told you about this, in the core texts of the Kabbalah. And that was a shtickle reading from Sefer Yetzirah, from Bahir, from Zohar, from Share Ora, so that people would see, you know, what's in real Kabbalah. The second semester, I called in my mind the trash Kabbalah. And this was a graduate course, and the people had to read Aleister Crowley and, you know, all these other Kabbalah things that were around. So I figured, this is going to be so much fun, I'll be able to trash them one after another and say they didn't know what they were talking about. I was a bit surprised. I want to tell you, I was a bit surprised. Warren Kenton, the Marshal Zev Ben Shimon HaLevi, not so bad. In fact, he had Sfirot, some Sfirot in which he had all the sciences, you know, biology and Tiferet and so on and so forth. He had this whole geschäft around physics, chemistry, all of them there. He's really good. Once he came to Fellowship House Farm on Simchas Torah. He was wonderful. And Jonathan Omerman was there too, and both of them have that British geschäft, but they didn't get along so easily with each other.
That's surprised.
But he always pulled out his Sfirot chart, you know, that he had painted there, and that's where I got this ring
10.
from the olamot that go into one another.
This is Warren Kenton.
Warren Kenton, yeah. So I come across a book by Dione Fortune, who's a woman who wrote beautiful stuff and keeps saying that the dream of God is intense.
Intense?
Intense. Intense. Number 10.
Oh, intense.
And number 10. That in all these, wherever you go, and she has a whole geschäft in which she shows that, and that's why it is 10 and not 9, and this is why it's 10 and not 11. On the other side of that, I once had a guy from the Waldorf,
Steiner, Rudolf Steiner.
Steiner people come, and he wanted to know, is 10 absolute? And I say, it depends whom you're going to ask. In the tradition, they'll say it's absolute. But by that time, I was getting into binary, into different kind of number systems, and so on and so forth. And when you take a look, in Taoism, is two absolute. You know what I'm saying? Is one absolute? I mean, there's so many other ways, but whenever you talk about 10, there is something that the fractals of 10 in the universe, they show themselves up. If you were to sort of have the computer to say, I would like to see all the fractals of 10 that are in the universe, they would begin to show themselves. It's possible that there are nines also, like the Enneagram and other stuff, but all kinds of numbers. Okay, let's go on. So he says, Tzva Shemaim Lachom Ishtachvim, Shem Betelim Machma Shemasigim Achiyot Shenimshach Aleim Mikdushas Yisrael. Once they feel that there is nothing but God, and that's where they get their life from. You take this one into the office too, so it won't get shining. Thank you. מה שאין כן, הקליפס הם מגביהים את עצמם כנשר בחוצפה, והיינו לפי שהחיות הנמשך עליהם הוא אצלם בסוד גלות, ולפי כך הגם שנמשך עליהם החיות דקדושה אינם בטלים, ואדרבה מגביהים את עצמם כנשר. Hold on. The thing about humility is a very strange maisa. In screw tape letters, in the first letter, the uncle writes to his nephew and he says, if you can't get your patient, that's what he calls the person whom he is to tempt, to be proud, then make him proud that he isn't proud. And even if he is not proud about that, you can make him proud that he isn't proud about being proud. And he points out that ein lo davar sof, that once this sneaks in, there's no way to get rid of it. Story. Isaac Mayer Weiss, Stephen S. Weiss it was young, and he came to a meeting of Reform rabbis in Vienna in 1923-24. There was a congress in Vienna. So he figured he'll also go and see Professor Freud while he's there. So Freud gave him an interview, and they sit and talk and having a good time. And toward the end, he says, Professor Freud, I agree with everything that you say, except with what you have to say about the unconscious and sexuality. So, so Freud says to him, who do you think are the greatest three Jews in the world today? He said, Einstein, Marx, and you, sir. And he says, what about you? He says, oh, no. He says, one no would have been enough.
One no would have been enough.
Okay. You see that?
Make him proud of not being proud of not being proud.
Right. That's how it goes. The other Maisa, the opposite Maisa is, there was a Rov in Lublin who was known as the Eiserne Kopf. Eiserne Kopf, that was like what a head he has, it's a computer, okay? So he was a misnagid, and he loved to tease the Lubliner, the Chose, about all kinds of things. At one point he says to him, why don't you tell him that you're not a Rebbe, that you're not a tzaddik? What are you doing this for? He said, well, if you tell me to tell him that, I'll tell him that. So they'll stop coming. He says, good, then tell him that so they'll stop coming to you. So he comes back a little later and he says, so what did you do? He says, I told him, and more people started to come. So one day they're sitting and talking about this issue of humility, and he says, I haven't seen anybody who really has that. Oh, he says, good. Reb Shlomo Lutzka was at that day the shamus there, and he asked, the Lubliner asked Reb Shlomo, get me Sholem Belzer. So he asked Reb Sholem Belzer to come, and he says, Sholem, is it true that you're an Onof like Moshe Rabbeinu? He said, yes, and he walked out. Okay? No, oh, no. There's such a wonderful
That's
Maisa about that. So when he describes here that Klippah getting juice from God gets so inflated that it lifts itself up, he says, like an eagle, and preens itself over there. And what's the difference between Kedusha and Klippah is that one, the one of inflation versus the one of being able to be in bittul against vis-a-vis that light.
What is the nesher? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Pardon?
What is the eagle, the nesher?
Im tagbi kanesher. It says that about the enemies of Israel. If you will lift yourself like a from Misham Oritcha Ne'um Hashem, from there I will take you down. You can get as high as you want, but I'll get you down. Okay, so that's where he takes that pasuk. They absorb it in themselves and they don't give it off further. They don't give credit. One of the avot hatumah is an insect that lives only a day. It's called the Eintagsfliege in German, the one-day fly. I don't know what it's called here.
A midge, maybe.
Huh?
Midge.
Lives only for one day. And it says that it's a machnis ve'eno motzi. It sustains itself, but it doesn't have a way of eliminating, and so it dies from its own crap that it can't eliminate, okay? So you can understand that, yeah? And he says that this is what happens. It's a machnis. If you get divine chiyut, and you're a machnis, and eno motzi, you take it in, but you don't give it away, then it's a tumah, that's tameh, that's Klippah.
Wow.
In Winnipeg, there was a very nice, simple Jew. He was very good. He gave tzedakah, and he liked to say Tehillim. And so, when I did his funeral, I was talking about there was a kosher Yid. What makes him kosher? He was mafris parsa. He was chewing the cud, and he was split hoof. Split hoof. He let money go through there, and he was chewing the cud like this. And I said that this is a kosher Yid, and there is something
That's
to that.
hysterical.
Huh? It wasn't a bad thing.
It's good. It's
for this Yidel, it's really good for this Yidel.
It's not too dissimilar. I mean, there's a lot of that. It's interesting how much comes in and goes out. Whoever it was, I can't remember right now. And this is a warning to all the smicha students here, because I hear this. They'll say, look, I've gone through Seder Nezikin.
Yeah.
So whichever of the Rebbe said, that's wonderful. So
how much went through you, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Would that be a definition, Rabbi Zalman, of Klippah, is machnis v'lo motzi?
Mm.
I mean, could that be something that you could, like a klal, or is that just a...
That would be too simple.
Yeah.
Because
Shucks.
I tell you why.
Try.
Because Klippah is also. Take a look. If somebody sells his soul to the devil, he gets a lot out of that. You know what I mean? There are certain things that are being given to people. It says, no. If you want to do tshuva, messiah noto, but if you want to go the other way, it's potchin lo. And so you will. There's a sense that Klippah is inspiring things, it's feeding things. If I start looking at our government, the Klippah of oil and of money and how it's blinded them to things, I can't say that the Klippah is, but the Klippah owns them. When you say when what helps Faust in the end? You know, that there is still something that Klippah couldn't give him, and so
Uh-huh.
that's how he could say, das ewig Weibliche zieht uns hinan, he goes beyond that. Right. But if you're satisfied with and you say, staying the course, כי אך כיצד הם חיים וקיימים מקדושה מאחר שהחיות נבלע בתוכם, הנה זהו עניין לבונה שביוד א' סמי הקטורת, שהוא אור המקיף עליהם למעלה ואינו נבלע בתוכם. This deserves a lot of more talk. Let's see, how are we doing with koyach and seichel? It's almost give a shtickle stretch because we're going to go to a thing here. Thank you. Thank you.
Tirzah.
I don't think I'm.
What's your name? Ruby. Nice to meet you. Where are you from? What are you doing?
He says,
Welcome.
he raised the question that Klippah, in its way, is totally absorbing of what comes from the divine element and doesn't give anything off. So why is it then that it should have such attraction? You know, there's something in there that really wants to get to bigger things. Why should the Tower of Babel go so high? You know, why should they want to fly so high like the eagle? Why? What's all this about? So he says that the 11th ingredient that was in the Ketoret was levona, and levona translates something that has to do with white, and it represents not what is immanent but what transcendent, the makif. Do you see that? Amakif aleim milmala ve'eino nivla betocham. On the one hand, you have to say in monism that Klippah is not outside of the system, okay? Ose sholom uvoriat hara, you have to say that it's inside the system. Ulefi shu ora makif milmala min hadaat shelahem ve'eino margishim bo. So the Klippahs get the influence from the surrounding energy that is there, which suffuses them, but it does not become conscious in them, and they don't feel it. And the other chiyut that comes to them, not in makif but in pnimius, gets totally absorbed by them. And because of that, they get inflated, and they pride themselves, and they lift themselves up, bechutz bekanal, like he said before. ובחינת לבונה הוא המחבר יהיו ספירס דקדושה להעיר לעשות ספירס המסע בוסר. And now he comes with this very powerful thing. That extra ingredient in the Ketoret was precisely what connects the Kedusha with the Klippah.
Sure.
Because it surrounds it, because it is makiv. You know, that sense of the surround is here very important. ובחינת לבונה הוא המחבר יספירס דקדושה להעיר לעשר ספירס המסע והוא רשת דעשו, and that's the head of Esau. דהיינו בחינת המקיף מלמעלה הוא נכלל בית for the Yitzchak, mamish, בקדושה, is holding on to the toes of Yitzchak in Kedusha. לכן מצד בחינת המקיף, Esau שואל איך מאסרין את התבן, ומצד הפנימיס אין שם שמיים שוגר בפיו. On the one hand, he can be very, very serious about the question, what supererogatory thing can I do that I even give myself from straw and from salt? And where does this come from? He is not lying at this point. He's in touch with something. Take a look. Sometimes you read a philosopher like Nietzsche or somebody else. You have a sense of there's an emes there. Even though what comes out of if you were to follow through, to live by his dictates, it wouldn't be so good. But where did they get it that they were able to be in touch with something? You go Schopenhauer. I mean, here was somebody who got into Buddhism before anybody else in the world paid attention to it. He was. How did he know that? Yeah, and that comes from that part in Esau. And when Yitzchak saw that part in Esau, he wanted to bring it into Pnimius, and he couldn't. Okay. Mitzad Pnimius ein Shem Shemayim shogeh befiv. When it comes to his actual life that comes from his inner thing, he was not a person who would talk about saying Baruch Hashem and Emir Hashem. I'm going to stop here. Reb Rami, you got to tell us a little bit something.
About what?
Huh? What
The
are you
old
gonna-
yin, the young yin.
Yeah, go ahead. What are you going to do here this weekend?
Oh, what am I doing this weekend? I can tell you about that. I'm teaching at Naropa a class called the Kabbalah of Writing, where I take some of the mythic forms of Lurianic Kabbalah and I turn them into writing exercises. So, for example, with the Tzimtzum, so what students do is they write a paragraph or so about their life, something that's really important to them, about who they are. And they hand it to a partner, and the partner has to reduce it to the one line that really moves them. Then you hand it back to the original author, and they have to expand it out from that one sentence, forget all the rest. And then you get it back, so it contracts and it expands, it contracts and expands, until they get stuff that only matters, you hope.
Yes.
So that's what I'm doing this weekend. It's fun. I've done it all over the country. It's a fun thing to do.
And what are you hoping for with the students that they?
Cash.
Is it? What is
that?
Is it a writing skill or is it about essence?
Well, it's part of a whole program that ultimately opens them up to their essence on a spiritual level, but then I want them to be able to look at what it ends up with at the end of Sunday is they begin to write Hasidic stories about their inner Rebbe.
Wow, great.
So they have to find this guy, and then they draw him, or her, and then they tell stories. And what I ask them to do is to keep a log, and it becomes an ethical will that they pass on. That's that.
So that's a doula exercise.
Beautiful.
When you go back, what was it? This uncle or this Rebbe who wrote those letters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Open Secrets book. Yeah.
Yeah. What a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
And I always had the feeling that if anybody could make us a Taoist Pirkei Avot, it was with Rabbi. Anybody else wants to say something about the Sedra, about what we just learned about
Yeah,
Asa?
can we process this for a minute?
Sure, please.
I feel this was like.
I'm
Or-
just wondering if because I've heard of Klippot and all that, but
Say that again.
I've never really got the essence of the Klippot. But the way that you're describing it, is it kind of like the way you crave something that's toxic to your body?
I think it would make a lot of sense to say that, but there's a lot more. Take a look when people talk about body armor.
Yeah.
No, at one point in one given situation, you need to have that body armor, but it's not yet armored. But if you keep your physique in that same tense place, it becomes body armor. That certainly serves as a klippah. The other thing of a klippah is, for instance, fundamentalism is a klippah. It keeps you constantly in the shell and doesn't let you get out of that. But then there's some other things that are part of klippah. I'm going to build a hospital, and I want the hospital to help people get well. But the Klippah of the hospital will be the iatrogenic diseases that people are going to contract in the hospital. Build a road that's going to help people, but the Klippah of the road is going to be the highway accidents that are going to happen there.
Is this more like the shadow element?
That's very much like that, yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I had a
you were saying
question.
something.
Well, that's good, as long as we talk
What?
about it, yeah.
It's probably the process.
Go.
So the idea of the Levana, I had heard a slightly, some other kind of take on it where it was, you might say, the redeemed aspect of Helvana. You know, that it's, that I thought that the Helvana had more the Klippah associated with it. But I'm hearing it differently now, and so I'm curious if you could take it a little further.
Before, remember, I started to tell a story and didn't finish it. But there were 10 guys there, and this guy was saying, "Then why don't you count me to a minion?"
Yeah, that's.
After all, Helbana
Yes.
is
Right, the Helvana guy.
right.
Yeah.
So he says that's the reason why you need 11.
So, do you have then, you have the Helvana to help redeem the frankincense? Is
Well,
that
what
in a
happens
different
is
way?
Helbana and Levona Zaka.
Yes.
Levona Zaka. And what, I don't know yet, when they say translated Galbanum, I really don't know. You know, there was a time I was very much into incense. I was trying out every kind of Catholic incense. Because the Indian incense isn't the same as a Catholic incense. Catholic incense is a whole other geschäft, you know. The minical and so on and so forth. And I used to play around with those coals that you set
Yeah.
on fire, and then you put the incense on top and so on and so forth. And I wanted to get, because the question was for me, why should it have such power? Because remember there was this thing, the perfume My Sin, and I wanted to have a My Mitzvah. Because I was really thinking about, even before, you know, when I still was very much like no fire on Shabbos and stuff like that, I wanted to have, remember those things that you used to kill insects with, you know? So I wanted someone to go around in shul before Shabbos to daven, and, you know, and put some into the air that would, because the olfactory system goes very deep, and why not, okay?
I'm thinking of Helbana as Lavan in the Parsha, as being the catalyst.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying that the Klippah is the stinky incense is the one who connects the Tameh to the Tahar. It was like he's the one who catalyzes the Kedusha out of and the Klippah out of Yaakov, and then ends up, it's right after that encounter, that 20-year encounter, that he's able to really have an encounter with Esav, where they're really kissing.
The biru that comes because of the selfishness of Lavan is amazing, right? There's a wonderful story, mices are coming up, that goes like this. I think Reb Simcha Bunim of Pshischa said that. It says that God appeared to Lavan and says, "Don't you dare to pursue Yaakov." Whereupon Lavan goes and pursues Yaakov to tell him that God appeared to him and told him not to pursue him. So Reb Simcha Bunim says, what kind of a thing is that? God says, don't chepenish with Yaakov, leave him alone, you know. And he runs right away to Yaakov. He says, because whom is he going to tell that God talked to him?
Right.
Nobody else in the world would understand that. They would say you're crazy or something like this. The only one who would think, God talked to me, God talked. Yes. It's Yaakov Avinu. So where were we now? More on Klippah, no, more on Levona, more on that.
Well, you're talking about the guy who came,
Yeah.
and he's the stinky guy.
Yeah.
But he's also the one that breaks his heart and loses his pride.
I like this addition to the story. I don't know if I read it this way. I read it as a put down, you know, but I like that ending. Eve has this wonderful thing about taking stories that come, in the tradition, and sometimes they're not so nice, and she gives it a nice twist, and then the person could be counted to a million.
There's that great Gurdjieff story also that, I forget the name, but there's this one guy that drives everybody crazy. I'm sure you know this. And
Yeah.
people just finally he leaves the community, and people are like, thank God. And Gurdjieff, and then 2 weeks later he's back. And what's the Mai says that he actually left the country, and Gurdjieff went after him to bring him back into the community, paid him to come back into the community, just to sit in that circle to make people, to drive, so people could do their work. It was too sweet and too shadowless without him. He was this big, coarse man who, so.
Did you ever
it's like the
tumble?
Levana.
Did you ever tumble rocks in a tumbler?
Mm-hmm.
No. It's a very nice thing. You take rocks that you find on the beach, pebbles and so on and so forth, the nice ones, and you put them in a tumbler, and then you put in some grit, and you let it go.
Yeah. Same.
Right. And that guy was the grit for the Gurdjieff group. Anything else?
Rabbi Zalman, you were going to share the letter or say something about this
Yes.
side of it.
Yeah. Go ahead, read it for us.
Oh, it's long.
It's all right. We still have the time to read it.
So it says לאלמונית, איך אפשר לתאר חוויות? מילים זה דבר נדוש. איך אפשר להסביר דברים שאתה רואה ומרגיש למישהו אחר? איך אפשר להסביר לך, לתאר מצב, להסביר את האי צדק שאני חש? למה ג'ובניק חי טוב? מוקף חיילות, יש לו את כל האפשרויות והזמן לעשות. חבל שהשנים הטובות חולפות מהר. למה כשאני מגיע הביתה בשבת ומנסה להתחיל איתך, את אומרת, אתה מקסים, אתה נחמד, אבל אני לא אשב שבוע, שבועיים, חודש, חודשיים ואחכה לאדון שיבוא מסריח, מלוכלך ועייף. ברוך השם, אני יפה והאפשרויות פתוחות בפניי. ועוד שבת עברה. למה שהתגייסנו לחבר'ה במחלקה היו הרבה חברות, מכתבים, חבילות, ופתאום נשארנו כולנו לבד, בגלל 3 שנים מזדיינות. אני יושב פה ב-X, בתוך אוקיינוס של בוץ, שלג מרחף אט-אט מטה ואני רועד, אבל הלב יותר קר, כי כשאני שוכב פה, את מתהפכת במיטה החמה והיבשה בבית המוגן, בין השמחות, לבד או עם אהוב, ולא חושבת על כלום. לא יודעת בכלל שיש חיילים ששוכבים בבוץ, שרועדים מקור ומתים לעצום את העיניים, לישון. ששומרים עלייך, אלמונית, כדי שתוכלי לשכב במיטה החמה רגועה. כשאני גימל למד צ'יצ'יק בית, מה זה?
בבית מלא.
גימל למד צ'יצ'יק בית. או באבוקה, עם נשק, אפוד, קסדה והרבה כעס בלב. איך להסביר לך? הרגשה של מתח וחרדה, של פחד ואהבה, כשאני באה הביתה ומספר על התקלות ועל הפחד וההתרגשות, ואתם מנענעים בראש, כאילו מבינים ומספרים על המכונית החדשה. כשאני סופר אבנים שפוגעים לי בג'יפ ושומע איך החשוד תכנן לעלות לצוהר ולתת צרור בכל האחים שהיו איתי ממרץ שנת 2002, ובעיתונות כותבים על חיילים רעים שיורים והורגים. כשאני רץ בין הסמטאות וילד בן 10 מקלל את האמא והאחות, מתאר איך הוא יזיין אותן מאלף עד תף, ואני נגנב. כשאני בקסטינה ורואה נוף שרואים בחול, אך אני רוצה לראות את הבית, ואני רואה אותו בחלום ובתמונות. אני רוצה מילה טובה. כשכואב הגב והעיניים אדומות מחוסר שינה, אני קורא בעיתון איך מסיבות אידיאולוגיות לא מוכנים הבני זונות לשרת בשכם, טול כרם, קלקיליה, רמאללה, ג'נין, כי זה נוגד את צו מצפונם. יש פריירים אחרים שיעשו את העבודה השחורה בשבילם, כל הצפונים והציוניים. אז מה אנחנו? אנחנו הכושים של מדינת ישראל. הם לא מבינים איפה הם חיים, הם לא מבינים שבלעדינו הם פשוט 2 מטר מתחת לאדמה. ואני מבקש רחמים, אני גם לא מרחם על עצמי, אני צועק לאי צדק. אנשים חכמים אמרו פעם, מי שלא עובד בערב שבת, לא אוכל בשבת. אין להם מושג איך נרגיש אחרי 3 שנים שבהם ראינו מחבלים, נשקים וסמטאות, אין לכם מושג איך נרגיש אחר כך כשנשכב במיטה עם החברה ונרגיש שיש אנשים שנולדו 5 שנים אחרינו והם אלו ששומרים עלינו. בגלל מציאות מזדיינת שנראית עבודה, אני חייב לשמור על אמא אהובה, על אבא, על אחים, על אחיות קטנות, חברים וחברות. כן, אני גאה, אני לוחם. לפני 1.5 חודש הגעתי הביתה ואחותי כתבה לי מכתב ונתנה לי אותו עם שוקולד. על המכתב היה כתוב פשוט, תודה רבה. היא בסך הכל בת 8, והיא מבינה יותר מכל הפוליטיקאים בארץ המקודשת הזו. ממש התרגשתי. אם לא הייתי משחק אותה קשוח, הייתי גם מזיל דמעה. כי בשבילה אני כאן נמצא. אנחנו רוצים וצריכים מילה טובה. לא דורשים משכורת, לא רוצים מכונית צמודה וגם לא חופשות בחול. רק מילה טובה. רק מילה טובה שנדע שאומה שלמה עומדת מאחורינו, שנדע שיש בשביל מה, שנרגיש ששווה, שנדע שלא טעינו כשביקשנו קרבי, קר"ב, כשביקשנו קרבי, להיות קרבי. שכל דבר קשה יהפוך לקל, כי בשבילך הכל נעשה מולדת אהובה. אולי זה נשמע קיצ'י וסתם, כאילו אנחנו מזיינים קצת שכל, אך גם היום יש מי שחושבים ומרגישים, כך תנו לנו את הכוח להמשיך קדימה, לנצח. על החתום, החייל הפשוט. המכתב הזה נכתב בידי חייל. המכתב הזה הוא מכתב התאבדות שנכתב בידיו. הוא התאבד בגלל לחץ מהצבא, בגלל דיכאון. הוא ירה לעצמו כדור בראש והתאבד. הבקשה שלו הייתה שהמכתב הזה יופץ. אני מקווה שיתמלאו אחר הבקשה שלו.
It would be kedai to translate that because it was someone by the name of David Barkan who sent this on from Israel, and it is such a heartbreaking thing about and I figure that we have this was the same thing in Vietnam. The poor guys who were there and then they came back and they were treated like shit. Yeah.
Do you have it on the computer?
Yes.
Can you forward
Yes,
it
I will
to us?
forward it to you. But you can take
To
it
me
now.
too.
Take it. Me too. So I tell you what, ask me for it and I'll send it to you. That's the easiest way to do that.
Just like he wants his fuck here.
All right. A good Shabbos.